Hey yo guys, this is Jared aka the Saint of Sins on Xbox Live, bringing you some more MLB thoughts for Sunday, April 22nd, 2012. Yesterday proved to be a solid day of baseball despite my picks only breaking even at 8-8. The big story coming out of yesterday's games would be Philip Humber's perfect game pitched against the Seattle Mariners at Safeco Field. Hurling 96 pitches on the day, Humber would pick up 9 strikeouts, the final out being recorded against pinch hitter Brandon Ryan, who would get a 3-2 fastball low and away in the dirt nearly and be called out on a check swing. This performance would pick up Humber's first win on the season and drop his ERA and WHIP to .63. Humber becomes the 21st pitcher in MLB history to throw a perfect game, the last one tossed being in 2010 by Roy Halladay on May 29th against the Florida Marlins. Humber becomes the third Chicago White Sox pitcher in history to throw a perfect game, joining the list of Charlie Robertson and Mark Buehrle. For the 29-year-old right-hander from Nacogdoches, Texas, this moment erased the idea of him being a first-round bust, at least as far as history is concerned, as he now gets to join a list of Elite League pitchers in history. Though he would have been drafted by the New York Yankees in the 29th round of the 2001 amateur draft, he did not sign. He would again be drafted, this time in 2004 by the New York Mets in the first round for the 3rd overall pick. He would sign in January 11th of 2005. He would later be bundled up in a package of prospects that would land Johan Santana to New York, the package deal involving Dolis Guerra, Carlos Gomez, and Kevin Mulvey. On October 6, 2009, after 13 appearances with the Twins, and racking up a 6.10 ERA, he would be granted free agency. He would then be signed by the Kansas City Royals on December 11th and post a 2-1 record with a 4.15 ERA in 8 appearances. On December 17th, 2010, he would be selected off of waivers by the Oakland Athletics. A little over a month later, he would again be selected off of waivers, this time by the Chicago White Sox. Last season, Humber would go 9-9 with a 3.75 ERA in 28 appearances. 26 of them would be starts. But throughout all of his time in the majors, all 214 1/3 innings pitched, he would never have an outing of 8 innings or more under his belt. This performance marks his first major league career complete game and shutout. Also worth noting, in that 2004 amateur draft, Humber was 1 selection behind Justin Verlander and 9 ahead of Jared Weaver. He also underwent Tommy John surgery during his first professional season back in 2006 and was given opportunities to start in the rotation when Jake Peavy wasn't ready to start after undergoing a rare muscle reattachment surgery. But beyond all of that, his accomplishment doesn't come without a little bit of controversy, as the final out called by home plate umpire Brian Runge comes as a bit questionable. Having seen the replay myself a couple of times now, I've come to the conclusion that Brendan Ryan's wrist didn't break on the swing, therefore there was no swing. But after having seen a perfect game pulled away from Armando Galarraga due to a bad call by first base umpire Jim Joyce, I think it's okay to give this one to Humber. After all, everyone remembers the controversy surrounding that bad call around Galarraga's quote-unquote perfect imperfect game. And I think it still sticks in many umpires' minds that no one wants to become famous in the same manner that Jim Joyce did. So rather than become the bad guy in Humber's attempt for perfection, he'll settle with making an enemy out of Brendan Ryan, at least for the time being. Other news on the day, Kevin Correa's start against the Cardinals was a no-go, as he was bumped to a possible start on Monday due to discomfort on his left side. Taking his place instead would be AJ Burnett, who was returning off the DL, reinstated that same day. The move would be effective as Burnett's debut in Pittsburgh would be a memorable one. Throwing 7 shutout innings with 3 hits and 2 walks, Burnett would retire 7 on the Buccos' 2-0 victory over the Cardinals. This would be Burnett's first shutout performance since July 28, 2010. In that outing at Progressive Field, Burnett would go 6 1/3, surrendering 7 hits and 3 walks while retiring 7 Indians himself. The win moves the Pirates to 6-8 on the season, moving them that much closer to being a 500 ball club, something I suspect they will be throughout the entire season. And finally, because I missed it yesterday, 2 inside the park home runs were hit on Friday, the first one on the day being out in Pittsburgh, a leadoff home run by Alex Presley in the bottom of the first inning. A deep fly ball to center field would bounce off the wall, just out of reach of Skip Schumacher, who had slammed hard into the wall and was unable to chase. Then in Milwaukee, Nori Aoki sliced a ball to left field where Carlos Gonzalez dove for the ball and missed. Coincidentally, both hits would be off of 1-0 counts. This would mark the 8th time since 2000 that there have been 2 inside the park home runs on the same day. Now let's get into today's matchups and predictions. We begin out in Detroit as Kobe Lewis takes to the mound to face off against Drew Smyly. I don't like Lewis's numbers against Detroit, so give me the Tigers to wrap up this series. Tim Lincecum takes to the mound to face off against Dylan G. I am still a bit hesitant on this one simply because Lincecum's last 3 outings have been absolutely atrocious, but I gotta believe that he's going to turn this corner sooner rather than later, so give me the Giants to wrap up this series. The Marlins send up Josh Johnson to face off against Nationals' Gio Gonzalez in what I expect will be a pitcher's duel that edges in the favor of Gonzalez and the Nationals. Kyle Loesch takes to the mound to face off against Eric Bedard. This one edges either way, but I like the Buccos for the series victory. The Twins send up Francisco Liriano to face off against Rays' Jeff Neiman. This one's an easy choice for me as I don't believe Liriano will ever be the same again and simply lacks the ability to be competitive against a strong offensive team like the Rays. Mark me down for Tampa Bay in the wins column. Chad Billingsley takes to the mound to face off against Wandy Rodriguez. Simply put, I'm not a big fan of Wandy. Sign me up with the Dodgers victory. Jeremy Guthrie takes to the mound to face off against the Brewers' Giovanni Gallardo. So far, both pitchers have been struggling at the top of their rotations, but I feel this one has to go to Gallardo, who's eventually going to break down and settle into his easy May. Lock me down for a Brewers victory. Ricky Romero takes to the mound to face off against Danny Duffy. I expect this one to be a solid performance out of Romero, so give me Toronto for the victory. The Reds send up Johnny Cueto to face off against the Cubs' Randy Wells. This one I hedge back and forth on a little bit, but I'm going to settle in on banking behind the Reds. Wei Yin Chen takes to the mound to face off against Dan Herron and the Angels in what I suspect will be Herron's first victory on the season. Justin Masterson faces off against Tyson Ross in what I'm hoping will be an Indians victory. In San Diego, Joe Blanton takes to the mound to face off against Anthony Bass. After a surprising turn of events from yesterday, I kinda was hesitant to bank on Blanton here, but then I realized I trust the Phillies offense a lot more than I do the Padres. So sign me up for a Phillies victory here. The Braves will send up Randall Delgado to face off against D-backs Ian Kennedy. Thus far, Delgado has been spectacular in his starts, but I'm siding with Atlanta simply because, even with Justin Upton back, they're still missing their hot bat in Chris Young. Back in Safeco, John Danks takes to the mound to face off against Kevin Millwood in what I suspect will be a sweep for the White Sox. And finally, at Fenway, wrapping up the day's events with some night baseball, the Yankees and Red Sox will clash, sending up CC Sabathia to face off against Daniel Bard. After a pitiful showing from the Boston's bullpen yesterday, I'm a little hesitant to pick them again here, but I still don't like Sabathia's numbers against the Red Sox, especially his numbers at Fenway. So reluctantly, sign me up for a Red Sox victory in this one to avoid the sweep. Just a reminder, you can always check to see what my picks are in the description box down below. That's going to do it for this edition of MLB Thoughts. Hopefully next time I'll have some good news about Albert Pujols as well as Josh Willingham. Until then, I'll see you guys later. Peace.